Episode 70, Fight to the Small River Pina. July 1943. Again, we're getting on the way and continue to push forward behind the Panthers. The day's destination is a town which we then reach toward the early evening. On the way, there are smaller skirmishes, but the Panthers driving in front have cleaned up well. Here everything has already been bombed to pieces. The Luftwaffe has taken care of quite a few things here as well. We set up security. Reconnaissance vehicles are sent ahead, and aerial recognition banners are spread out. This time, something warm from the field kitchen is also coming to the front. That's working out already. If the chow is warm and good, the foot soldier gets a better mood. With that, it's always going forward well. We don't laugh a lot this evening, since Peter's good comrade and friend died a hero's death in the comrade's tank. Peter rather wants to be by himself. We respect that and leave him alone. Still, Peter later comes to me, and we talk about the experience. Of course, the conversation turns to the Panzer, which, together with Peter's friend, was shot down today next to us. They had the first training classes together and arrived at the regiment simultaneously. Klaus was his name. He was married and already had 2 children. They had a pact that if one of them would fall, the other would write to the family. That's now Peter's task, and I sense that it'll be difficult for him to write these lines. But I can't relieve him of that. New orders arrive. We are to remain in a rest position for 1 day because the armored spearhead, which had executed the main push in the middle front sector, got itself stuck in the defensive installations. Nevertheless, we also have a bit of quiet on the next day. 2. Resupply arrives. The infantry and pioneers are catching up. The Luftwaffe is constantly underway and is shooting everything out of that sky that's wearing a red star. I take the time for myself and again write down a few lines. I also take up my sketches and draw some things to relax. At night, the sewing machines are underway again and are dropping their beloved greetings from the sky. We aren't the target, but the pioneers, sheltered right next to the right of us, receive a few bombs. 2 dead and 6 wounded are the toll. But one of the double-deckers also goes down in flames. At least something. They'll probably have enough for now. The next morning, due to the nighttime activities, we're completely exhausted, and the little sleep becomes noticeable. We pack our stuff together and await the new mission orders. Those do arrive. Cover the left flank and defend against possible attacks. A platoon of armored reconnaissance vehicles is assigned to us, which is to always advance deep into space in order to discover possible recognize attack intentions early. We roll off again, and onward it goes. Unfortunately, we do not have a clear picture of the situation or an understanding of what things look like in other places. Schmidt should be here right now. He'd surely know more again. By now, we've been in combat for days, and in the meantime with 3 companies at the enemy. The use of ammunition was enormous, and we're glad to always receive enough supplies. However, the machine gun ammo allotted to us is not belted, therefore we have to, in between battles or whenever we have a few hours of leisure, belt it ourselves. We promise ourselves not to make use of the machine guns in such a carefree manner anymore, but to treat it conservatively. The commanders are briefed. We've received the mission to drive over a hill and to gauge the enemy resistance. Our company is to roll ahead and for now secure the other 2. That's actually a suicide mission, but that's how it's supposed to be now. Peter is anxious, and we roll up the hill somewhat uneasy. Up there, an armored reconnaissance vehicle has already driven ahead in order to scout the forward lying area. We don't make a stop but zoom right over the crest of the height, since the slope had been reported clear of the enemy. It's going almost 3 kilometers slightly downhill. In the distance one can recognize a creek bed. According to the map, it's the river Pena, and beyond that is the enemy. It's frighteningly quiet. Not a shot rings out. With 5 tanks we make swift progress, but at the halfway point of the trip, we suddenly receive vehement and well-placed artillery fire. But we make it through without damage. One only hears vast quantities of shrapnel and rocks bouncing off the turret. The artillery fire subsides, We've now closed in to 800 meters of the small river. That should be enough. Now anti-tank shelling is setting in. In between, you can hear the firing of the Russian tank guns. A patch of woods is situated a few kilometers farther to the right, but there one can't recognize anything. We have the mission to lure the opponent, and for us to memorize features in the terrain and the enemy positions. We take up the firefight and engage the identified emplacements. Regardless, we are not to break through. For that, we're too weak and have insufficient backup. From the fire halt, we shoot 20 shells and continuously relocate to different firing positions. Now it's going backwards. Our own artillery is shooting covering fire. We are to disengage from the opponent. We've already received 2 hits, but they did not penetrate. Slowly but steadily we're rolling backwards up the slope again. And now there's an order to launch smoke grenades. Then a loud bang, and the tank is standing still. The engine is off, and electrical power has failed. I check the fuses and quickly find one blown. Therefore, it's quickly changed, and Lothar gets the engine running again. We shoot smoke and continue to roll further backwards. Impacts are hitting next to us. Apparently the Reds can't see us any longer. Now Elfriede next to us reports a hit in the tracks. We remain with the comrade's tank. Quickly, its men are out of the tank, and in the shortest time possible but under anti-tank and mortar fire, the track is remounted again. All manage to make it unharmed back into the combat compartment and continue with us to roll further up the slope. The distance has become too far for the Russians already, because at 2,500 meters, the anti-tank shells are hardly dangerous for us anymore. Another tank is shot immobilized. Now it's our turn. We're to take it in tow. Let's get to it. Quickly, the steel cables are laid out. The shackles are hooked up, like the wind. The tank is ready to be towed. We drive off again and pull the comrade's tank up the hill. Again, Russian artillery fire sets in, but this time it's poorly placed, or the artillery is suspecting us elsewhere in the fog. A light breeze comes up. The fog is gradually lifting. We've now reached the top of the hillside and pull ourselves, including the attached load, into cover. Back to the starting position. We first take a deep breath. Then our observations are gathered and discussed with the company commanders. An attack plan with formation of a focal point is agreed upon, according to which we are to attack in 1 hour. Air support is not available. That's needed elsewhere. Whatever is on hand of our own artillery can only attempt to put fire on the anti-tank gun positions when we'd be dangerously close already. A thought that makes me queasy, though I hope that the hostile fire will be spread out over the entirety of the 3 companies. We still have 2 hours before the attack and get ourselves ready. Ammunition and fuel are added. In the meantime, I'm looking at the dents in Rosinante. One in the front glacis, where a weld is cracked, one in the gun mantlet, and one next to the bomb machine gun. Our tanker's chest has also been hit, but the steel protected us well. If there are no heavy calibers positioned, then the impending attack won't be a walk in the park, but only a tough dance. At least there haven't been any mines reported, so we hope that we'll be able to break through to the next village. Begin of attack. 3 companies are to be thrown forward, 2 as a shock wedge and 1 in reserve. We already hear our own artillery firing for effect. Targets have been transmitted to them. We roll over the hill and attack. Just like the first time. It's quiet, and for now, there's no enemy fire. We know this. The Russian artillery probably won't start the fire show prior to the middle of the slope. I had memorized the spot, and indeed, just as ordered, it sets in, though the combat vehicles are rolling through the barrage fire in disregard. We notice that a few vehicles are already falling behind due to hits. We shorten the distance swiftly, just at 1,300 meters. The first fire halt is ordered. The targets are still in our memory, thus a fiery burst from the combined tank cannons shatters death and destruction into the Russian positions. Here and there, anti-tank emplacements are spotted which betray themselves by firing. In this case, the threat is finished with high explosive shells. We work like machines, loading, aiming, firing. 3 shots, rolling forward, covering each other, engaging targets, reporting new enemy positions. The resistance is increasing, but we haven't been hit yet. Then, However, a hit on the turret, a wheat field further right, is apparently peppered with anti-tank riflemen. We turn in and roll into the field, not parallel to the enemy line, but rather at a 40-degree angle. I can't see any muzzle flashes, but the loader fires a few bursts of machine gun fire for sheer luck into the wheat field. Now we receive further hits which also don't penetrate. One anti-tank rifle squad still try to get away, but are shot to pieces by the neighboring tank. The second squad death-defyingly jump into a ditch and get out of the zone of fire. They then climb onto our tank, and I become scared and afraid. Peter wants to get out, but I hold him back. Only seconds later, we can hear machine gun bullets bouncing off the turret back. The comrades behind us were watching out and shot the crooks off our turret. Now it's really getting difficult to approach the emplacements. Lothar has to use all his skills not to get tangled up in bomb craters or anti-tank obstacles. The two companies are digging themselves through the Russian positions. Especially dangerous are the dug-in TS. If we can't eliminate them, they'll keep tracking us and shoot us in the side. We destroy houses and bunkers, shoot up anti-tank gun emplacements, and drive Ivan from his holes. That's how we make it through, I'm thinking. Half of the ammunition has been shot off, but we've almost reached the small river. But here they come. 15 or 16 T-34 seconds are breaking out of a patch of wood from cover far to the left of us and are driving with high speed into our flank. The reserve company by now has closed in and is now attacking the Russians. We support as well as we can. I risk a few shots at 2,000 meters, but Peter says we'd better save on ammunition. The other would get it done already. The enemy tanks are driving a really wild attack. I'm able to partially watch it. Their tanks are ramming each other or are shooting at our company, driving at full speed. I just can't explain to myself how one can employ their fighting strength so poorly. It doesn't take more than 30 minutes, and no Russian tank is still in one piece. Surely, we have our own losses, but the Russian tanks are all total losses. Our grenadiers collect the surviving tankmen of the Reds. The smoking wrecks are obscuring our vision. Now things get lively on the opposite river bank. Here, too, are again emplacements and anti-tank ditches. Now the other companies are rushing forward and start raking the Russians from our side of the river. The creek is too wide for us, though. We're hoping for bridging equipment in the next few hours in order to set across. A time for some respite sets in when the last enemy resistance has died down. The infantry under our covering fire already have managed to get over the creek and have rolled up the Russian ditches. A few dive bombers have also come into our sector and dove down on identified targets which we hadn't been able to reach from the creek bed. Now we're securing the area and we place our Rosinante near the ruins of a larger Russian hut. Again, there are serious scratches along the turret, but it's all still intact. The joy is great when in the impending dusk parts of the staff, in their mobile command posts, arrive in the vicinity, and Schmidt is also present. I'm happy, and we pat each other profoundly on our shoulders. Still busy, therefore we want to chat again later. After Rosinante has so far been taken care of, and we've also gotten something to eat, I walk over to the comrades who'd shot the Russians off our turret. It was the radio operator. Since the commander and gunner had just been engaging other targets, he'd seen the guys jump from the ditch and close in on our tank with hand grenades. He therefore immediately pulled the trigger, but apparently had also hit our tanker's chest. That's not too bad, but I'll take a look at it later. I politely express my gratitude and walk back to my crew. The shots into the tanker's chest now won't get out of my head. After all, we've stored everything in that chest that one might need, but for which there's no room inside the tank. Indeed, 3 bullets have impacted there. I've learned in the meantime not to stash my spare uniform there. The chest can always get hit once in a while. Peter comes to me. I show him the holes. We look inside. 1 bottle of port has got it, and his better tanker jacket has 2 holes in the fabric. Oh well, that's all not too bad after all, but the jacket smells like a sailor's tavern. At that, I do have to laugh. This time, anti-aircraft cover is advancing alongside to protect the pioneers during bridge construction. Those are supposed to work the entire night through. since the next morning at 7 a.m. It's supposed to go on. I still meet up with Schmidt, and we tell each other the experiences. He was always close behind the regimental commander. There, it had gotten close a few times. One time, there had been 3 tanks reported which had slipped through somewhere, but the staff platoon with both of its long barrels set them straight, not to be marauding around the hinterland. Also, 2 strafing attacks and an artillery strike they had witnessed without a scratch. One must have luck. About the greater situation, he can't tell me anything so far, but what he does know is that it's going forward slower from day to day, and the losses are increasing. I tell about the Panthers in the neighboring sector, and he reports about the Leibstandarte, who apparently mercilessly walked even through the strongest defensive position like Moses through the Red Sea.